6:45 here on your Wednesday morning. Welcome back here to Good Day Las Vegas. And joining us once again, Metro Sheriff Joe Lombardo for the Morning Cup of Joe. Thanks for coming in.
Cup of Joe.
You get the Cup
Good
of Joe
morning,
right
Sheriff.
there.
Yes, ready to go. You know, we have a lot we want to get to, but first, a lot of people have been wondering about Canine Hunter. He was stabbed a couple of weeks ago trying to take a suspect into custody. How's he doing, Sheriff?
From what I've been told, he's doing good. He's still a couple months away from being full duty, per se. It's unfortunate the circumstances that it occurred in, but that's why we have the dogs, and that's why they do what they do. You know, it's a lot of people don't even ask about the officer. They're more concerned about the dog. So the officer's Officer Corbett, and he's doing good too.
Good to hear.
So the circumstances, an individual in distress, mental distress, unknown what kind of substances he was under the influence of, but we utilized the dog to take him into custody. He was in possession of a knife, and he proceeded to stab the dog. You know, one of the good things about it, I believe, it prevented an officer-involved shooting. Individual come after an officer with a knife, we would more than likely be engaged in some kind of use of force, and you know, to include deadly force. So it's a good tool for us dogs. I would always measure them to about 4 officers per dog.
Oh, wow.
Because they're so active, and the ability to search and do what they do is a big deal.
Yeah, and it's dangerous for them as well as it is for the humans on the force, as we saw, but good to see that.
Glad they're both doing well.
Yeah. All right, so something else that's been in the news recently.
Cool pictures.
Yeah.
Metro has suspended, you have suspended the controversial, that some would say, collaboration with ICE for detaining illegal immigrants with federal ICE. It's called 287G. You issued a statement, you called this a setback. How is this, in your mind, a setback?
Well, I don't know if I would use the word controversial. I guess it depends on who you
ask,
are,
right?
Yeah. Who you ask. It's a federal program that helps us utilize the federal database to determine a person's immigration status. And it was a post-arrest program. So in other words, you were out in the field, you got arrested for whatever charge, and you were determined to be foreign-born. You went to the Clark County Detention Center. We would use that data system to determine your immigration status. But the court in central part of California, Central District of California, Gonzalez versus ICE, the court determined that the database was flawed. So we could no longer rely on that in order to place detainers. But that doesn't mean we're not cooperating with ICE. We'll continue. We had this similar setback in 2013 when there was a Supreme Court case associated with this program. So we suspended it until they can work out the nuances through the court system. And we'll continue to cooperate at ICE. It's just we work at it in a different direction. It's a lot slower, it's a lot more cumbersome, but we still intend to get rid of the worst of the worst.
So what you're saying is you do essentially the same thing, it's just slower?
It's slower. It's slower, and it has to include an actual interview by an officer versus just relying on a database. And another portion of that people aren't aware of is the detention after adjudication. In other words, when your case was done, your local case was done, and before you would hit the streets, the 287G program allowed us to keep you for approximately 48 hours for ICE to determine if they had the ability to come get you. Now that 48 hours is gone. It has to be in conjunction with your time of release.
Okay. So. All right, well, we'll follow that. Thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate you being here. If you have a question for Sheriff Joe Lombardo, you can submit it on our website, 8newsnow.com, and find out if your question was answered every Wednesday right here on Good Day Las Vegas.